Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Carroll of the New York Times, and I am so delighted to welcome you to this exciting Times Talks. We're live here in New York at the Times Center and live around the world on the web. This is the third of 5 special conversations taking place today, celebrating the 4th annual New York City Wine and Food Festival, benefiting the Food Bank for New York City and Share Our Strength, and of which the Times is proud to be a sponsor. Our next guests are both connected to the New York City restaurant Le Bernardin, which ranks number 18 on the world's 50 best restaurants in the world. One of them is the chef and co-owner of that celebrated restaurant, which has upheld a 4-star review from the New York Times for over 2 decades, longer than any other restaurant. He's the author of 4 cookbooks, the chair of City Harvest's Food Council, and a recipient of France's highest honor, the Chevalier de la Légion d'honneur. He also serves as a regular guest judge on Bravo's Top Chef and is the host of his own Emmy Award-winning PBS series, Avec Eric. Also well known for appearing on Bravo's Top Chef and Top Chef All-Stars, our other guest is the chef de cuisine of 10 Arts Bistro and Lounge by Eric Ripert in Philadelphia, personally selected by our other guest to lead the kitchen there after he discovered her talents during her work for him at Le Bernardin. You'll meet them both in just a minute, but first I'm delighted to introduce our interviewer. He joined the New York Times a year ago as a dining reporter. He's the author of the book X Saves the World, and his work has been included in such prestigious anthologies as Best American Non-Required Reading, Best Food Writing, and Best Creative Nonfiction. Earlier this week, he wrote in the dining section about the foodie magician who haunts New York City restaurants, eating and entertaining the guests. Please join me in welcoming Jeff Gordinier and our very special guests, Eric Ripert and Jennifer Carroll.
Thanks for being here. I wanted to start out by reading something from On the Line.
That's good.
It's a book about how work goes down at Le Bernardin. And this is on page 126, we come across the Cardinal Sins, which involve issues of service at the restaurant. Some of my favorites are pictures on walls not leveled. Burned out light bulbs, clattering dishes, be quiet. Language that is too formal or casual, asking men for their orders before asking women, not refilling water or coffee, rattling, as I heard, pocket change. There are 129 cardinal sins in this book. There's a whole page of them.
That's just front of the house.
2 pages, actually, yeah. So I thought that was a good lead into a talk because I'd like to talk about rules with these guys. Because I think the idea of rules and breaking rules is sort of central to what you guys have both been up to lately. And we should start, first of all, by talking about this great 4-star restaurant. Essentially what's going on, so Eric is the executive chef of Le Bernardin, 4-star restaurant, and he did what anyone running a 4-star restaurant should do. He sort of detonated it. He just changed the place, renovated it, decided to close it down, change the whole ambiance of the place, which is, as we were talking about backstage, a dangerous thing to do. So I wanted to start by asking you why you did it and why it was necessary.
Thank you for the great question. So by the way, when we started with the 129 Cardinal Sins,
Yeah.
it's a list that is always in progress.
Oh, it is. There's more now.
By now we are at 146.
You do?
Yeah. We always find some Cardinal Sins.
I'm sure I've broken 3 of them already.
But anyway, Le Bernardin is 25 years old, and our cooking has evolved over the years. The service and the ambience has evolved also inside the room. When Le Bernardin opened in 1986, I wasn't at Le Bernardin, but I joined in 1991. However, the service was very formal at the time, and it was something that you will find in a luxury restaurant. And then we changed our service to be much more interactive with the waiters, more friendly, not coming to the table and say, "Hi, folks, my name is Eric. What's up today?"
I'm Larry, and I'll be...
We don't do that, but we are much more engaging with the client when they want to. And the steps of service have changed and so on, and we really became from a very French restaurant transported from Paris to New York. We became, I think, a New York restaurant. So we changed the service successfully to what the clientele liked and what we like, and we changed the food in the kitchen all the time, and we evolve all the time. As you can imagine, you cannot change the room, I mean the decor of the room every year because it's huge investments. So what we did over the years, we changed once the chairs, once the carpet, another time we moved the paintings around, and then we put more lights, and then but at the end we ended up with something that was not in sync with the evolution of the food and the evolution of service. And we wanted to have some not renovation, but a reinvention of the restaurant. So therefore, we took the risk to close for 5 weeks and reopen with a restaurant that I think is, compared to before, has many of the same characteristics, being a luxury restaurant first, but also we have some adjectives that we didn't have before. Le Bernardin, I don't think, was ever a sexy destination. We like to be sexy.
I'm not going to fight you on that. And what we were talking about in the green room was that you felt that you had to do this in New York, and that one wouldn't necessarily need to do it in Paris. Tell me why. What's that about?
Well, I think in New York, as we know, it's a very exciting city to be here. It's an experience that is no other city can bring to you. And New York is about reinventing yourself all the time. It's a very competitive city in every aspect. From single people who date, it's a lot of competition, to people who run businesses, to people in the finance, to when you go to a restaurant to get a table, it's a very competitive city. And New York is contagious in a sense that you really want to reinvent yourself. You really want, it's a, I don't know if you can call that a pleasure, but we take a lot of pleasure in renewing ourselves all the time and being inspired by what's happening in the city. And it's, as you all know in this room, in New York, every 5 minutes something happens, something new is happening. And like I just said 2 minutes ago, it's very contagious.
Do you feel a sense of pressure surrounding those 4 stars from the New York Times? I ask in part because one of the, not necessarily controversial, but one of the more talked about things that happened this year was that Sam Sifton, our outgoing restaurant critic, reviewed Masa, the sushi place in the Time Warner Center, and took away one of the stars. It was a 4-star restaurant, and he decided to give it 3. I presume you read that. What went through your mind?
I felt bad for Masa because he's a fantastic chef.
Right.
And I think what they do over there is exceptional in a sense that, I mean, it's 12 seats and the master feeds you. It's a very unique and exceptional experience.
Right.
Now, it's not my job to give stars or take stars away, or I barely speak English, so imagine I don't write English. I'm a chef, I'm a cook, I am in the kitchen. I have my personal opinions, but that I share with the family, but that's it. I stay where I am. And the press writes reviews and gives stars and so on. When we have something to celebrate, we don't take any honors for granted. Let's put it this way. And when it's time to celebrate, we celebrate. And if one day we don't have a 4-star, we will take the criticism like big, adults and move on and try to make a great product and so on. But our motivation, I mean, when I go to work every morning, I'm not thinking about the stars of anyone.
Sure.
Or a good review or anything like that. When I come to work, my focus is to make sure that we are going to be able to deliver the experience that the clients are expecting from us.
Sure.
And the experience can be very different. I mean, you may seek something at Le Bernardin that someone else is not thinking of. Some people save money for a long time to come to the restaurant, and they come to celebrate or to have a great meal. Some people come because they have the habit of coming very often. Some people come in business, some people come on a romantic date, some people come, again, like for birthdays and so on. At the end of the day, what really is important for us is to please everyone. And how we judge that is by looking at the face of the people when they leave. And when we see people leaving and being happy and smiling, I think we have delivered. That's what I think counts on a daily basis. And then we have the New York Times reviewer from time to time.
And that's where the Buddhist idea of let it go comes in handy, I suppose.
And impermanence.
Impermanence, exactly, yeah. Speaking of breaking the rules, Jennifer was talking backstage about the fact that your restaurant in Philadelphia, you're actually leaving. This is your last few days there, right? So talk about that a little bit, what's going on there. You're taking your own kind of risk.
I'm taking a huge risk. I've been with Eric, who has been my mentor for 8.5 years now.
Say 5. Makes her look younger.
And I'm also at the Ritz-Carlton too, so I'm taking a huge risk by leaving 2 huge names and going out on my own, but I feel that it's my time to do it. And if I don't do it now, I don't know when I'm going to do it, so I need to take the jump in. I'm excited. I have mixed emotions. I feel like I'm kind of breaking up with Eric, but I know he'll be in my life forever because he's such a huge support to me and has always been there for me, whether it's been about food, my career, my family, my personal life. I can turn to him and talk to him about anything, which has been one of the reasons I think I've been with you for so long and why so many of your cooks and employees are so loyal to you, because we all love you. You treat us just like family, and it's amazing.
Watch out, if I have family here, they're going to be jealous.
Eric has, he's pushing me off the tree limb now, letting me fly on my own, so.
How'd you guys first meet?
I came to New York after leaving San Francisco, and I came to New York and I wanted to work in one of the best restaurants. That was my goal, and I did stages all over the city. And my favorite place was Le Bernardin, and I didn't think that I would have a chance of getting in. I walked in, I dropped my resume off to the hostess standing out front, and was shocked when they called me back a couple days later. And I went in, and you do a stage, you work one day. So I worked a Saturday, and it was in May. So the summertime, as you all know, everybody escapes to the Hamptons. The restaurant scene kind of slows down, even though Le Bernardin never slows down. I did the stage, and they invited me back, and they said, okay, great, you can have a job in September. And I said, oh, no. I said, I will do anything. I will start tomorrow. And I kept going to Chris, the chef de cuisine there. And I just start begging him, and he goes, fine. You want the job so much, you start tomorrow. And I saw Eric the next day.
Now, so how do you know? Like, how do you know someone? I'm sure a lot of people come up to you. I think I've asked you 3 times if I could work in the restaurant. And nothing ever transpires. You should really try my
You don't want to work
meatloaf.
in a coffee station.
But how do you know when someone's coming up to you and begging and saying that they've dreamed all their lives of working with you, and that's the one?
She's exaggerating. She didn't beg. and we don't have people coming and begging, but we have people interested in being at the restaurant. And we have two strategies. The classic strategy is to interview the person, spend quite some time, which is the work mainly of the chef de cuisine, Chris. Is managing the kitchen when I am not in the kitchen, and is managing the kitchen even when I am in the kitchen, making sure that all the parts work and function. And he has the responsibility of interviewing with very detailed interviews the candidates, and then he put them in a kitchen and we observe them. And then he has an opinion, and he shared that opinion with other sous chefs, and they come at me and they say, we believe that person could be at Le Bernardin. And
are there drinking contests or anything like that?
after the work, yes. But I have a much quicker way of deciding. I don't know if you read that book, Blink.
Of course, yeah.
So I really rely on my instinct. And I strongly believe that the first impression is the right impression. Sometimes I'm wrong, but very often I prove myself to be right. And therefore, I put my impressions of like 1 second impression with all the work that the sous chef have done. And we decide yes or no, and then we have the position open. But when we have some candidates in the kitchen, we see right away if the person's going to fit in our kitchen. Sometimes we see some cooks that are very zealous and so on, but they're very clumsy and you know it's not going to work. And sometimes you have some cooks, the hands in the pockets and leaning against the wall around 10 o'clock at night. And you know,
I'm done here.
It's not going to work either. So we observe, and then it's the way it works.
Now, another thing regarding rules and the breaking of rules I wanted to ask about was, of course, Top Chef. When Jennifer was on Top Chef, you knew it was coming.
Of course, it has to come.
Gotta ask. So you know, you were asked you were done. You were asked to leave Top Chef, and you didn't go quietly. You sort of, as Dylan Thomas put it, you know, raged against the dying of the light.
It's a good way to put it.
Yeah, poetic profanities maybe, and which is very, you know, one would say out of step with the perception of Eric and sort of the kitchen he runs, and I mean the idea of Le Bernardin is really kind of a sanctuary. It is. It's like sort of a sanctum, a church of food that ran counter to that. So, what went down? Why don't you remind everybody what went down? And let's make you walk through it again. No, you know, sort of what went down, and then Eric's perspective on that as well.
Oh man, be nice, chef. I already got it from you once. The day that I got eliminated on Top Chef, it was the second episode after I went back for All Stars. And I slightly disagreed with the judges. And I think what happened, what I know what happened to me is I absolutely let my emotions get to me. And instead of taking a step back and being professional and acting like the chef that I should, and you know, just taking it and saying thank you, I exploded and went the wrong way. And I regret the way that I came off, but at the same time, I still believe in what I did. I don't think it was the absolute best thing anymore looking back. I know that there were some mistakes made that day, and I probably would not do it again the same.
It was good television.
Very memorable. As the Philadelphian and me definitely came out that day, is what I like to say. Eric doesn't like me saying that at all.
No, I remember very well. Jennifer managed, that is a scoop. She managed to steal a cell phone from someone from the production and call me.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
They don't even know that at Top Chef.
Yeah, I know.
And called me and was frantic and screaming at me, which I have nothing to do.
He's not even there, and I'm yelling at him on the phone.
So I was trying to understand what happened, really. Never understood, and then she rang up, and then, or maybe someone ran after you and got his phone back, or I don't know what happened that day. But what I know is that she was very upset. I was kind of surprised she was eliminated so quickly.
Sure.
Then watching the show much later, I realized that she didn't sleep all night, and you were under a lot of stress since your help. I mean, they were working by team, and her help was at the hospital. She was by herself, and so on. Anyway, it was great TV.
But you sort of apologized for her, like you sort of like blogged about it soon after that, right?
I don't recall that.
Oh, you don't?
No.
I thought
But
that had come
when, I mean, look, recalling now about the show and the dishes and so on, I mean, it was braised pork belly sliced with chopped eggs on top. That can send you home.
And it did.
She was convinced it was a masterpiece at the time.
It hasn't hit the menu at 10 Arts, so.
It has the potential to send you home. So I was not there, and I believe in the fairness of the judges, obviously, because I go sometimes 2 times there, and I am myself a judge, so I know the process. That's it.
Let it go, let it go, let it go. So a broader question on this is, what are you guys doing on TV? Like, obviously, chefs are on TV all the time now. When you started first appearing on TV, I was sort of surprised because of that idea of what you do as being almost sacred. And I always thought that sort of chefs appearing on TV, you'd run the risk of undermining, eroding the ability for people to take you seriously. And so, why did you decide to get into it? What's the upside for you?
Which TV appearance do you refer to?
Just like, being on Top Chef, like, you're right, there's different kinds of shows you've been involved in.
Well, I mean, no matter what I do, and depending on which show I go, and I can go sometimes on the morning shows like the Today Show, sometimes late night shows like the David Letterman, which is totally different, and it's comedy, to reality shows, well-made like Top Chef. And then I had my own show on PBS for 2 seasons.
Of course.
I always, no matter where I am, I always try to be inspiring, and I always try to be sharing some of my knowledge with the viewers. And that's my way of interacting with the media world. Whatever I do, it's always something to take for the people. So that I don't think that damaged the reputation of the chef that I am. It doesn't really damage the reputation of Le Bernardin that is for a long time pristine and so on. So it's all good, I think. It brings exposure. It brings also pleasure to me. I love to do it. I have a lot of fun to be on the Letterman show and being goofy and feeling like I am 15 years old.
Sure.
And but at the end of the day, the last time I was with him, I taught him how to fillet a Dover sole.
Right.
Once I tried to teach him how to open scallops. He used them as frisbees, but could have used them.
Well, I suppose this contributes to your being seen as more approachable, and that you are, at the end of the day, cooking food for people to enjoy. So it's not necessarily like at this point a chef who's like, I shall not appear on TV. It would almost be J.D. Salinger-esque. It'd be like they were too austere about it or something.
We're talking about cooking.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about eating. We're talking about hospitality.
Sure.
It's not about brain surgery, death and life. It's about indulgence.
Right.
You cannot take yourself too seriously, really.
Let's talk about indulgence. I was under the impression when we talked earlier that that the restaurant spends roughly $80,000 a year on truffles, but I was wrong. It's more like $150,000.
Yeah.
It turns out.
Yes.
That appears on the line a lot. There's a sort of a list of the expense that goes into truffles, Kobe beef, the quality of seafood you're getting. Tell me what that means in terms of running a business.
Well, the business has to be sustainable, therefore profitable. If not, you don't last.
Sure.
So the idea is to make some money with it. However, when you run a luxurious restaurant, when you run a restaurant like us, at our level, it's not a very rational business. And we don't think profits. When you break a glass, it's $25. When you break a plate, it's $80. And your meal costs $100. So if the waiter or anyone breaks the plate, not only the profit is lost, but you lose money. So we don't think rational profits like that. When we buy fish, we don't think, oh, I'm going to make 20% out of that fish. We're looking for the beautiful products. The way we buy fish actually is interesting. We buy in Maine mostly and in the fish market in New York. And when we buy in the fish market in New York, we buy without knowing the price of the fish. We receive the fish, we accept the quality of the fish, or we refuse the quality of the fish, and then the invoice comes on the afternoon.
You don't even ask.
We don't even ask. It's a matter of trust. So that's the way we work. It's about passion, and we are very lucky to work like that. And I don't have a job. I have a passion, and I have a lifestyle which is linked to my passion. And it's contagious, and I think it's contagious to the team. It's contagious to
just being in the Bernardin and working with the fish and the truffles and the caviar. It is so special that I got to work there and to experience these products that probably 90% of the cooks and chefs in the entire world don't get to see and don't get to work with. So it was an extremely special and great experience for me. I mean, I get beautiful fish, and I don't get the truffles at Ted Arts in Philadelphia.
Not as many.
Not as many.
I know you do.
I know. But it's something very special that I will never ever forget, and hopefully we'll be able to do one day again.
Yeah, hopefully soon.
Yeah.
But to go back to the products and so on, like for instance, when the wild salmon season ends, we want to have wild salmon all year long. So we create relationship with the Indian reservations in the West.
Do you really?
Because they are allowed with some of the Eskimo tribes in Alaska to catch the wild salmon all year long. You imagine how much it costs to go after the Indians who mail you the salmon via FedEx and so on. Sometimes we sell at loss. But again, it's about having a beautiful product. We don't care. It doesn't matter. We are in a hospitality business. We have this mentality. We have this tradition. And at the end of the day, obviously, we must be rational somewhere because we live decently from what we do.
Let's talk about that salmon. I could go get a piece of wild salmon tonight. And using the sort of principles of simplicity that you espouse, attempt to cook it in some with simple ingredients, and it will not even come close to what you do. So, what are the crucial elements and techniques that lead to making a piece of fish something sublime? How does it happen?
It's a long story. No, but it starts with an education. You have to learn the basics of cooking, and it starts with knife skills and many other things. And then it takes probably about 8 to 10 years to master all the techniques and to understand how is the evolution of flavors in a dish. For instance, a sauce, it's something that is very complex. And anyone in this room knows how to make coffee and tea. And you know that when your coffee is an hour too long on the coffee maker, it's a different flavor. So imagine a sauce with 20 ingredients. So you have to learn that. After that, you can become finally a sous chef and basically learn how to manage people and learn how to share your knowledge with them. And then you become a chef. But the core of a chef is really to be a great cook. Or of a good chef, I would say, is to be a great cook. And I think, Jenny, you will agree with me on that one. So when you cook, you have the techniques on one side. But if you use only the techniques, your food has no soul. So you need to have the techniques and the knowledge, and then you need to cook with your heart. or with your guts. Jean-Louis Paladin used to say guts. I like that too. But it's the combination of both, of mastery of techniques and really your instincts driving your cooking makes the difference. And it's a matter of experience and many years of practice.
And one thing that Chef has always said to me, he can always tell in a kitchen who has the natural ability and who has the passion coming through them and who is cooking with their heart, and he can see if somebody's having a bad day. He can kind of see the way they're cooking or their knife skills are just by looking at their mise en place that day. Instead of even looking at their face, he can tell how they're feeling by the way they're cooking that day. So it's very emotional.
I'm glad you believe that.
Or it's all the hidden cameras and microphones in the kitchen.
No, but what I look at a lot in the cooks is their arms and hands.
Do you really?
Yeah,
Looking for scars?
Well,
or
yes, I look if they cut themselves a lot, if they burn themselves a lot.
Yep.
And then I talk to them and I'm like, you don't take care of yourself. So if you don't take care of yourself, how do you think you're going to take care of the food? Right. And I don't like to see cooks with a lot of blisters and so on, and because it means they're rushing in a process. They're not careful enough. They're not taking care of themselves and what they're supposed to do.
They're not focused enough.
Not focused enough, no. So it's a lack of maturity.
I had the honor earlier today to do a Times talk with Jacques Pepin.
The legend.
The legend. And I wanted to quote a couple of lines from The Apprentice, which is his lovely memoir. Jacques Pepin writes that imagination, quote, can be truly dangerous in the kitchen if the cook has little knowledge of technique and poor taste buds. And Jacques Pepin also says chefs, that there's a danger in chefs, quote, succumbing to the temptations of over-experimenting. I was wondering how you feel about that, because we're seeing all, we see all different kinds of movements and philosophies and techniques at this point, the latest one being neurogastronomy, if you've heard of that. So how do you feel about this sort of tendency toward experimentation?
You want to start?
Sure. I think you need creativity and you need to be able to express yourself sometimes. But when you're working in a kitchen and you're working underneath another chef, you're working for them and you're working their vision. It's not my vision yet. When I have my own restaurant, it will be my complete vision. But at that point, the cooks, you can say, hey, chef, I have this great idea. Can I make you something and bring you something, which Chef Ripert encourages hugely. And at Le Bernardin, he has a huge library, and there's dry erase boards that he encourages all the cooks to go down and to read during their breaks and to write ideas up on the boards. And the sous chefs have meetings to discuss dishes. Hey, let's talk about this ingredient. One of the things that I've learned working at Le Bernardin, when you're coming up with a dish, it's not just on the fly like you see on Top Chef, like what I did.
Let's forget about that.
Yes,
Let's let it go.
It's days.
Let it go.
It's days. It's weeks. It's months. It may even be a year before a dish is completely developed and perfected. And then at that time, we may say, "Oh, we're tired of it now." But it's really, truly finding out the best way to elevate, the fish is the star of the plate, which Chef has made the mantra of Le Bernardin and has ingrained it in, I believe, all of his cooks and chefs, that you need to really elevate your food, but it's a lot that goes into it. So it's not just, you need to do what the chef says.
Do you recall any moments when things went horribly awry? Either with service or a dish you prepared, or because you're known for this perfection, invisible perfection, whatever.
No.
Seriously. Thank you very much.
I see some journalists here writing. Of course, we have some bad days and good days, and we have some good service and bad service. But we try to have a certain level of consistency, and to make our life easy, and also to have the same product for the clients on a daily basis. It's very important. And then when we put a dish on the menu, it's not like we thought about it 2 hours ago and then it comes on in the menu. We don't have specials at Le Bernardin because we don't believe that we can have a genius idea every day. So sometimes we have specials, but very often we don't have a special. We work on ideas for a long time, and sometimes we're lucky and it's like few days, or sometimes it's on one shot, boom, it's on a menu. Very rarely. Sometimes we work for 10 years on one dish. We let it go, we come back. We have now a calamari at Le Bernardin that took me 20 years to like and say,
you're kidding.
That dish is okay to go on the menu. Yes, because the calamari was either way overcooked, or the stuffing was raw, or the stuffing was cooked and the calamari was stuffed. I mean, I was never able to do the dish I wanted. So it took me 20 years, and finally I discovered that if I was importing calamari from Spain, they were different than the American calamari, and I would be able to do that dish. So when you think like that, you have less bad surprises on a daily basis. Then we have a big team. We're lucky to have many cooks and sous chefs. We tried our food constantly. Before what we call the service, before noon, before 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, we try all the sauce, we try all the products. So then we limit the percentage for error. And then during the process of delivering the dinner to the guest, we still have people in place in the kitchen who are solely dedicated to test the food again, like quality. How you call that? Quality service?
Control.
Quality control. They are there just for that, to clean the plate, test the food.
Can I have that job, actually?
You know,
that sounds really
it's a very tough job, because
It's a very
at 10
tough.
o'clock at night, you still have to test some food, and you really don't
This
want
one's not really working. I'll just have it myself. You know that I have a genius idea every day. You were saying that doesn't happen?
come with us. You need
That you specialize in fish. Our oceans are being depleted of fish, we are told. How do you avoid being part of the problem there? How do you become part of the potential solution?
It's a very, very difficult. Sustainability is a very difficult subject to understand. Obviously, everything underwater is invisible to the naked eye, and we rely on different informations, very often coming from organizations like the Monterey Bay Aquarium, Oceana, and you have like a dozen of them which are relevant. You have NOAA, which is also a governmental agency that monitor supposedly what's going on in the ocean. Sometimes they contradict each other. Sometimes they are in agreement. Then you have the voice of the fishermen, and you have the voice of the people in a fish market and fishmongers and so on. Then you have your own judgment. And I'm going to give you an example. The red snapper was, and still on the list, on the red list of many organizations. So red snapper is on the red. You're not supposed to buy red snapper, is in danger. And then 2 years ago, the government increased the quota of catching red snapper by 4 million pounds. So where do you go? What do you do? So the organization said, look, the snappers are smaller and smaller. So then I go to the market, and actually I don't go to the market, it's not true. But I see the fish coming. If you go on the market at 4 a.m., 3 a.m., and
yeah, forget that.
You leave the kitchen at midnight, you're dead after a couple of years. But I have never seen the size of the snappers becoming smaller. So then I went back to the organizations, and I said to them, I said, you saying the red snapper is in danger. Why? I mean, how do you calculate that? And they don't really have a way of telling you. They talk about the bycatch, they talk about the techniques used to catch the snappers, the damage to the ocean, and so on. But they don't take in consideration that you may buy a red snapper from a small fisherman who's, actually we have a restaurant in Cayman Island and we deal with the local fishermen. They go on a tiny boat and they come back with 12 red snappers every day. And it's plenty of red snapper in Cayman Island. So it's not endangered. So the sustainability, we try to surf in between informations, have our own opinion. We mostly follow the guidelines, but sometimes we disagree. Another fish that supposedly is endangered, skate. I mean, how many restaurants in America are highly successful at selling skates?
You're asking me?
Yeah. You know, like how many, I mean, like, it's very rare to see it on the menus.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
And it's very rare to find clients to eat skate. So you telling me that the skates are endangered? No, they're not endangered. It's the technique they're using and the bycatch. But how many fish go to catch skate compared to fish going to catch striped bass? The percentage is very small. So when you put everything back again into consideration, it's extremely confusing. I believe, and I am an optimistic, I believe that ultimately in between the government, the fishermen, and the organization, and everybody else, we will find solutions to monitor better what's going on under the water. Actually, one of my ideas is to say, well, why don't we put a tag on the fish and say when it was caught, where, the technique, the boat or the fisherman, and if supposedly the fish is in danger. And that for the consumer will be a great guidance. Right now it's just an idea. So if someone wants to support that, we go to Washington. Jenny, let's go.
Did the tsunami in Japan affect you know, the way you work, what you cook?
It affected us definitely emotionally, of course.
Of course. Yeah.
And we actually raised money right away to send to Japan. And then what we saw is that the prices of the fish went up tremendously coming from Japan. It kind of like multiplied by 10 almost.
Did it really? Wow.
Overnight. And then it was a paranoia in I think, worldwide about Japanese products. And to stop the paranoia, we decided to have some Geiger detectors.
Geiger counters? Yeah.
Yes, the radiation detectors. And I think that really helped to stop the paranoia about can I trust the government? Can I trust the FDA? Can I trust the Japanese? Can I trust? That stopped everything because we were like, yes, we're checking everything coming from the Mediterranean, coming from Japan, coming from America. We're testing every item. So that is the way we counteract the catastrophe that was major in Japan.
So customers had Geiger counters on the table, even though
Not really.
And from a more pop...
It's on the Cardinal Sin, never show your counter Geiger.
Never show Geiger counter. We got number 146, there we go. You're friends with Anthony Bourdain. You guys have an interesting pairing there. And Tony got into controversy recently by proclaiming that Paula Deen, one of the TV food stars, was something like the most dangerous woman in America. So, both of you guys, what do you think about that? What do you, and you know, Frank Bruni wrote a brilliant op-ed piece, I think, after that for the Times about sort of culinary elitism and this split between what are perceived as the rubes and perceived as the elites. What are your perspectives on that? Is there some kind of binary, some duality developing in regards to food?
I don't know the story about Anthony getting in trouble with Paula Deen. He
No
typically
way.
gets in trouble with everybody, so he's tried to turn me against Eric a few times. Hasn't worked yet.
He's a conspiracy theorist.
Yeah.
Paula Deen works for the CIA, you're saying?
I didn't say that, but I cannot talk for Anthony, obviously, and I do not wish to talk on his behalf. But I think what he was playful, and whatever he said was taking first degree. Obviously, she's not the most dangerous woman in America. We all know that.
Jennifer is.
Only on Top Chef. But I think he was referring to an episode, if I understand well, and I may be wrong, but I think I'm not wrong. He was referring to an episode where she split a donut and put a burger in the middle. And I think he was not happy about that.
Right.
And I wouldn't be happy about eating my burger in a donut bun. So, was she right or wrong? It's a matter of opinion, and in my opinion, it's not the right thing to do.
Jennifer, is there a different palate in Philadelphia than New York City? Customer different?
There definitely is. Philadelphia is starting to grow and become more refined with the restaurant industry that's growing. It has changed and evolved so much over the past 5 years even. There's so much more culture and different foods and chefs that are now staying in Philadelphia instead of leaving and coming up to New York City, which a lot of them would leave Philadelphia as soon as they got big. They would come up to make it up here. And you know, I think the palates in New York, if you grow up as a child in New York, you're used to eating all of the different ethnic foods that are around. There's just so much more culture here. And so there's definitely a difference. So it's been a little bit tough to get the education out there, but Philadelphia is definitely coming around, and I'm really glad to be a part of helping them change and evolve.
I saw this really funny movie last night called The Trip, in which Steve Coogan, the actor, and this other actor, Rob Brydon, go on a sort of restaurant tour of northern England and sort of talk and argue and do impressions the whole time. But it made me want to ask you guys if there has been a pivotal trip in both of your lives where it radically changed the way you thought about food, a place you went where it, you know, sort of just exploded how you thought about food.
When I was a kid, I had a passion for eating from age probably 1 to, I mean, all my life I had passion for eating first, and then works come second. So cooking came after eating. And one of the reward when I was well behaved at home or studying in school, which didn't happen very often, that's why I ended up cooking actually. But one of my gift will be, what do you want because you behave well or you study well? And I always said, well, I would like to go to that restaurant. I would like to go try a 2-star Michelin, a 3-star Michelin. And my parents will take me and make the trip with me. And I think that was definitely a great moment in my life and a very important moment because I suddenly had references about fine food and rustic food and homey kind of cooking and bourgeois cuisine in France and refined cuisine from a 3-star Michelin and so on. So I was very lucky. And all those trips built probably in me the passion and the desire to become a chef.
For me, I don't think there was any one trip. Now, growing up, I wasn't as lucky. We ate pretty much what my dad wanted, and it was a lot of well-done pork chops and pot roast and canned vegetables, and we pretty much never ever had fish because my dad didn't like it. So I think by not having that in my life, wanting to learn more about it and wanting to eat the fresh vegetables and go to the farms that were around the corner, because my dad also owns race cars, and so we would travel to the racetracks, and on the way as kids my mom would always stop at the farmers markets and we would stop, and I remember going and picking out what we wanted to eat, and I always had that as a memory. So I think that really motivated me to get into cooking, and I never as a child really knew that I had this passion in me because I wanted to be a lawyer at first. And after working summer jobs and in the back of the house and the front of the house, I grew to really love it, and I loved the feeling of being around food and working with my hands and having fun and being able to get the immediate gratification of doing something that made me happy to eat and made somebody else happy. So I think it's been a culmination of my entire growing up that has really motivated me. So maybe not having it pushed me even harder to get the beautiful products and food that I have today.
Your dad didn't like fish.
No.
And then you worked with Eric.
Yep. And
that's like an odd form of rebellion against your parents.
It's crazy. My dad in the past 10 years, my dad now says that he is the chef and that he is my inspiration. And when I was the sous chef at Le Bernardin, I would talk to him on the phone. He's like, "So what'd you do today? Make some salads again?" And I'm like, "It's a little bit more involved than that, Dad." And I got him to eat raw fish and eat scallops, and so he has completely changed 100% because of my passion and drive, and it's amazing to see what we grew up eating and what he's actually cooking now, because he is the one that's at home cooking all of the dinners now. It's great. I've spread it's contagious.
Actually, yeah,
it's contagious. I've spread it, so it's nice to see.
I've always wanted to ask you how your Buddhist practice influences what you do, how it influences you day to day.
It's a very personal way of seeing life that I don't really discuss.
Oh, you don't?
No. No, but it's like, I mean, I don't think someone would ask me if I was Jewish or Christian, how it can affect my way of cooking. So, yes, I'm Buddhist, and then I apply I try to apply most of the teaching in my daily life, and it transpires into something at work, but I don't go into those details.
I was just wondering if the restaurant might have been different without that, if there, you know.
Well, in my office, I collect Buddhas. So I have 25 or 30 Buddhas there.
Oh, do you really?
And I'm thankful to Mandy, who's here, who works with me in the office, who lets me bring them, because I cannot bring more Buddhas at home. I promised my wife that after 300 Buddhas, we will stop. So then I started to collect them in the woods of the Hamptons. But now we have no more room, so
that's a lot of Buddhas.
Yeah, it's anti-Buddhist actually, to collect.
What would surprise us about working in Eric's kitchen?
Don't answer.
You have 1 minute to it. Now's the time. Now's your chance.
58 seconds.
1 minute?
Yeah.
Don't
You
do
told
it,
us to go for it, Eric.
Go for it, come on.
No, I don't. I think what would surprise you would be that Eric truly is the gentleman and the fair man and person that he truly is, that you see come across on TV. He is that way in the kitchen. You know immediately if something is wrong without him having to say anything, and he never puts you down or makes you feel bad about it. He always talks to you. So I don't know if that's surprising. I think it's just.
She's still
I love this guy. Yeah, I got a couple more days.
She's still
after,
afraid. That is brilliant. Great. Well, on that note, she's still afraid. Alas, we have to end. I'm sad to say it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good job. Hey, Jennifer, thanks so much.